Hey guys, Desert Magic here, and welcome to the very first episode of whatever I name this series when I upload it. That's right, haven't picked a name yet. I gotta go back and look at the comment section from the video because I remember seeing some that were pretty funny, and the other 99%, let's just say the people weren't necessarily very serious when they were recommending names. But Centaur2606, aka Jordan, aka Gurr, aka Donald Trump, just kidding, sent in this awesome deck list, and he said, yeah, it's good, and I'm getting the impression that he likes to blow things up with mono black, and who doesn't? I mean, that's totally my scene. But he's losing to blue-white approach because, God knows that deck's tragic, and blue-black control. And I would say even just anything with heavy control, any kind of control deck at all right now. Typically in those colors, though, but I can see why. I can see the weakness in this deck. So the question is, how do you improve it? So let's go through it first because, you can't improve a deck unless you can understand what it does, and thank God he actually told me what it does and how it works. So first we got Bantu's Last Reckoning. Excellent card. I love it. It should be in virtually every sideboard for a deck that plays black, just simply because it can stop red rush. I mean, it's so good because, it just takes out everything, and they have next to nothing left. Certainly not enough to knock you down to 0 life. So I love it, and even late game, it's like an emergency turn the game around. I mean, for 3, it's just so good. Next up, Doomfall. Now, I do like this one because it's not the other player's option. If it was, it would be pointless. So it's a 3-cost sorcery, which is expensive for like a Thoughtseize or whatever, but that's not really how it works. I think some people are comparing it to, oh, it's a bad kill spell and it's a bad Thoughtseize. No, it's an option is what it is. So you choose one, target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls. That's amazing, especially when you leverage against the fact that this deck removes the rest of things. So you can choose something you want gone, and then ta-da, you do Doomfall and there's only one target left. Or target opponent reveals his or her hand, you choose any non-land card from it and exile it. Not just discard it, not put it back in the deck or anything. No, it's gone. I mean, and so is the creature. It is gone. This plays around everything. Indestructible, hexproof, doesn't matter. I mean, this could get rid of a god. I mean, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Then you got Never. That's pretty nice because it's creature or planeswalker, still for 3, still sorcery. And then you get the little Aftermath, which is, basically just generated 2/2 zombie by ditching a card out of a graveyard. That's kind of cool later. I mean, if you're like, oh, I need a creature. So just good utility. And it's black, which is very uncommon for the Aftermath cards. I think only a couple rares were that way. Next up, we've got Torment of Hailfire. That card's just amazing. It is just astonishing how good that card is. I love it. I personally own about 16 copies. Next up, we got Walk the Plank. Now, I don't personally love this card, but it is a 2-cost. The rest costs 3. I get it. It's the curve. If you're playing against Merfolk, you're going to have a problem, but, whatever. Such is life. It's still a 2-cost kill spell, and there's only 2 of it. Now, keep in mind, there's only 1 Torment as well, because early game it's not going to do much for you. Honestly, for low X values, your opponent will just play around it. Next up, we've got Arduel's Bloodfast. You can pay 2 life and draw a card. That might be it, because that alone by itself will feed into, like, the I need more spells thing. And it's unlimited draw. I mean, it's 2 mana short of being a recurring free trigger, which a free draw trigger is, like, obscenely powerful. So I assume that's why, because the second part makes no sense. It is dangerous, it is stupid, and nobody should go for this. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, you may transform him. That's safe. I guess if you're about to lose the game, you can flip him. It's dumb. That is a dumb card. And then we got Cruel Reality. Now, this one's on the upper end here. It costs 7, which is why there's only 1 in there, I assume. And you enchant the player, then at the beginning of their upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If they can't, then they lose 5 life. Now, remember, this whole deck is kill spells, so it's not bad. I mean, there's only 1, but, it's the top end. Then you got Bone Picker. That's, like, mandatory for a black kill deck. It's a 4-cost 3/2 flyer, so if you had a natural cast it, it's not the end of the world. But it costs 3 less, so it costs 1 black to cast if a creature died this turn. One of yours, one of theirs, doesn't matter. And it's got Death Touch. I mean, Bone Picker is amazing. I don't think it's particularly expensive at the moment, but still, people play it. I see it a lot. Next up, we got Demon of Dark Schemes. So there's only 2 of it because it's a 6 cost. So he's trying to limit the upper end so that, you limit your exposure to the amount that could potentially be in your opening hand, while still maintaining a number that's reasonable to pull by like turn 7 or whatever. So it's a flying 5/5 demon for 6, so it's already pretty good. When it enters the battlefield, all other creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. It's not like this deck has tons of creatures and certainly not tokens, so that shouldn't be a big deal. And then whenever another creature dies, you get 1 energy, and then if you pay 3 and then or 3 mana and 4 energy, you put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control tapped. And whenever they add something strange, like some kind of limiting factor, that is the signal that the ability is too powerful. So they felt like they had to water it down a little bit. Well, that little bit is insignificant. You could free cast like a god spell or something. Well, not really, because gods don't tend to stay in the graveyard. But yeah, I mean, it's just good. I mean, you could almost just never activate that because the rest of the deck doesn't use energy. And this is still a good card. It's still a 5/5 flyer. I mean, it's just amazing. Next up, Gifted Aetherborn, of course. Death Touch Lifelink, keeps you alive, stops everything. If you're playing black, put this in. I mean, that's about where this card's at, and he's running 4 of it. So there you go. And this will make up for any kind of, little bit of life loss or some kind of early red or whatever. I absolutely love this card. It is just about the perfect card. Next up, Noxious Gearhulk. Now, it's a 6 cost, but because it's so good, he put 3 of them in. And it's a 5/4, so it's already really good. Menace mixed with removal. That's a thing, people. Very overlooked. If they don't have 2 blockers, or if all they have is 2 blockers, both of those are a very bad scenario when you're swinging for 5. Now, if it's like a 1 attack power menace creature, that's just stupid, honestly. I'm not sure that actually exists in the game at the moment. But when it enters the battlefield, you may destroy another target creature, and if a creature is destroyed this way, you gain life equal to its toughness. So you don't even need to flicker or resurrect this. You just drop that in once, get rid of something, and it's a 5 attack with menace, and you've been removing things the whole game. I mean, this is amazing. Next up, Fatal Push. Of course, I mean, it makes sense. It's the early game kill. It is unreliable, and you could basically never trigger Revolt in this deck. It's almost impossible unless it happened on accident or something. So I don't love it, but I mean, we only have 5 sets that are legal, and there's only so many kill spells. Speaking of that, Vraska's Contempt. This is just a good card. I don't care that it costs 4, it's an instant. The rest of the kill spells in here are a sorcery. So you exile target creature or planeswalker and gain 2 life. I mean, I like the 2 life, but still, it's just creature, planeswalker. I mean, if it was 3, it'd be cool, but that would be like the most insane version of Hero's Downfall ever. So for lands, we got 24 because that's the amount you want if you have to get to 6 and 7. The problem is this deck is so split, and it has almost nothing on the low end. I mean, you got Bone Picker and Gifted. That's it. Everything else costs a fortune or is a removal spell that'll stall out the game. So the sideboard, I'm not really going to talk about that. It makes sense. Oh, look, a sweeper in case they're running too many targets. It's pretty obvious. Lost Legacy, duh, but that should be specific to your area and what you have to play against. That's why I don't even commonly upload like my default sideboards when I do a deck, because it should be up to what you need to put in it. So his description of it is, this is a mono black control deck looking to kill every creature the opponents play, which is exactly the impression I got, and then finish the game with big beaters like Noxious Gearhulk and Demon of Dark Schemes. The problem is, as soon as a game-winning creature comes out, it is all in. You have to win the game with them, and it's going to take at least 4 swings to do it with any of them. So that's a lot of time for somebody holding to some kind of control spell to, mess with you. So imagine this. Okay, they're playing like some kind of blue-black control heavy whatever, but they're running some creatures. Okay, so you start taking out the creatures. Maybe they throw a negate or a disallow in there. Oh boy. But other than that, you've pretty much stopped them. Well, you haven't put out anything creature-wise for them to burn a control spell on. And by control, I mean removal in this case, specifically creature removal. So the second that you get out a Noxious Gearhulk or a demon, boom, they will take it out. I mean, the probability of a creature removal deck having a creature removal spell by the time you get it out and then have no other target in the meantime, very high. Now, there is a little bit of hand disruption, but it's not enough. And honestly, to get rid of removal spells with hand disruption is kind of dumb. It's really better at getting rid of combo pieces and game-winning, game-ending creatures or spells. Otherwise, it's like 2-1. Like, you're wasting your hand disruption to get rid of removal spells so that it doesn't get rid of your creature, but you kind of have to have both for it to work, and it doesn't really work. So I think there's some improvements that can be made. So let's jump over to X-Mage. All right, got the deck loaded up into X-Mage, and the first thing is we need to set up a lose-lose scenario where no matter what the opponent does, it is going to backfire, or we'll get them to play into what we want them to do on purpose. So the best thing you can do is a Lightning Rod, and this deck definitely needs a Lightning Rod because the number one problem is you get out Noxious, you get out Demon, and they are going to destroy it. Even Bone Picker, they're going to destroy it. I mean, if they have one creature removal in like 15 turns, they're going to destroy it, and that's all you bring out. So we need an early game Lightning Rod where, like I said, it's a lose-lose. So if they don't destroy it, it will single-handedly win the game. And if they do destroy it, then they hopefully don't have enough creature destruction left for when you bring out something that's even worse. And I love decks like that. So first, and this is like the maddest card ever for this deck, Dream Stealer. Everybody thought this was going to be a killer card and it only went into a couple decks, but it is so good. I mean, I think people don't like the fact that it's a 1/2, so it takes 20 swings to win, which means it doesn't lend itself well to this deck for 3 cost. But it does have Menace, which is cool, so it's almost always guaranteed damage, especially in this deck. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, which will be almost impossible to stop, that player discards that many cards and it has Eternalize. So not only does the opponent have to destroy it twice, and an Eternalize cost of 6 is very reasonable, but it comes back out as a 4/4, which when it hits would make them discard 4 cards, or as I like to call it, all of them, and then it can single-handedly win the game. So they destroy it early game, it's going to come back by itself late game to bite them, or they burn a removal spell on it, and then you hit them with Noxious or Demon. Real simple. Or even Bone Picker, which honestly could come out on like turn 3. So absolutely, I would put 4 of these in. I mean, it's really going to drag it out on damage, but you'd almost hope that they destroy it so that you can Eternalize it. But seriously, I mean, the turns are going to be really short if they have 0 cards in hand because of this card, and then they go to their draw step, they draw nothing, like some kind of land or something, or some irrelevant card, like a boost spell or something, and then ta-da, they pass. So don't worry about like, oh, this is going to drag it out to turn 30, we're not going to finish the game. They're going to be short turns with very little decisions in them. Now, the second card is one of my all-time favorites. It goes on my list of the most underappreciated cards in Standard right now, Fretwork Colony. And this deck does have the cards to play around this card, barely. It's close. So Fretwork Colony can't block, which is normally a very big deal when it, because it gets bigger. But you don't have to because you're going to destroy literally everything they bring out. So not a big deal. If you find yourself having to block, you probably already lost the game because something didn't work. So at the beginning of your upkeep, just straight up, this trigger goes off, put a 1/1 counter on it, and lose 1 life. This is insane, okay? This card is absolutely bonkers insane. If you get it out on turn 2, I think you win the game on like turn 6 or something. Let me think. It would go, let's see, turn 2, then the next, okay, it would swing for 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. Okay, so like whatever turn that would be. But it can single-handedly win the game. So this is the Lightning Rod to end all Lightning Rods. Now, by Lightning Rod, of course, I mean something that, only costs like 1, 2, 3 mana, whatever. It's kind of a throwaway card, not a big deal. But you force them to, waste, I guess, their creature removal on it. Now, is it a waste? No, this card would have beat them. They would have lost the game. So it's not really a waste, but you're taking the pressure off of your Noxious and your Demon there. So very nice. So between this and Dream Stealer, they're going to have something to destroy. There we go. So I'm going 4/4 for this. I mean, there's not much room in this deck, even though it's such a simple concept, because you just need that volume of removal. But that's the thing, is I've noticed it's the same thing with blue. If you counter everything, you don't have enough mana left to do anything, to bring anything out. And a lot of these are sorcery speed kill spells. So what you need to do is like leverage the recurring breakdown, like take advantage of the fact that they're already losing. So Cruel Realities 7, it's so late. Oh, I don't know. I don't like it. It's a little expensive. I put it in a deck and I just could never get to 7. And if I did, I was either already going to win the game because I was dominating or not. And then if it's not, this is not going to turn around the game. So I'm removing Cruel Reality. And Torment of Hailfire is wonderful, but they're just going to take the life hit. And you're probably, I mean, if it's in your opening hand or something, you're going to get it off for like 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. So it's almost like disqualified from being cast that early because everything else is removal and cheap. So this would have to be like 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. And at that point, it's a darn good card, but it's so late and then you get the effect. So I'm actually going to remove one of my favorite cards, Torment of Hailfire, and put in the other Torment, Torment of Scarabs. Because this costs 4, so I'm going to drop it in the place of Cruel, too, because it's mini Cruel. This, like, if you were to cast Torment of Hailfire 4/4, you'd only get 2 ticks off of it, whereas this will be for the rest of the game. And remember, this is a drag it out control deck. So you are increasing the number of turns that your opponent has to take by an enormous amount. So I'm actually going to put in 3 Torment of Scarabs. Now I would go 4, but it costs 4. So that's not good. Like between these and the Noxious and the Demon, you've got a lot of cards already that will be boat anchors in your opening hand. And I don't like boat anchors. Now, Arduel's Bloodfast is very important because just think, okay, you're out of cards. They have nothing on the field, but they have 4 cards in hand. You know that next turn they're going to start summoning things, and you only have like, what, a 50-50 chance in this whole deck of pulling another removal spell? So you will start losing if you run out of cards. So here you go. Pay 2 mana, pay 2 life, draw a card. So there's a lot of life loss in this deck, but Vraska's gains 2, and Gifted gains a bit. So I'm actually going to throw out, Gifted, 2 more Gifteds, just because they're so important to offsetting the fretwork. And they're also a little bit of a lightning rod, honestly, because if they finally get something out, then you just stop swinging. Or keep swinging because you're going to gain 2. I mean, what are they going to do? Counter swing for 3? Who cares? I like to make this look tidy. Okay, I like to make it look tidy. So, now, let's see. I mean, now we're almost at the point where you got to start cutting cards. And that is always rough, because we're at 71. Well, first of all, I mean, Cruel's gone. Let's nuke a swamp. I think 23 is more than enough. Oh, whoops. I just realized I added... What is 20 plus? I added too many in the first place. Whoops. All right, there we go. 23 lands. Got it. Now, the other thing is, okay, Noxious costs 6... But it's only really, really, really valuable if they brought something out, like that you didn't already destroy. But then again, if they have something on the field because they took their turn and finally brought something out, but you want to bring out a big creature, well, you kind of also want to destroy that, but you don't have like 8 mana to do both. So this is pretty nice. I don't know if I'm going to leave 3 in though, but that 5 menace is pretty nuts, and the life gain is huge, especially for fretwork. And then Demon, that's the one I really have a problem with. It is 5 damage in the air, but it costs 6, which is really high. I mean, that is really late. Like 4 mana is late, 5 mana is extremely late, and 6 mana is like insanely late. Because remember, you get to start the game with 7 cards, so to get to 3, it's virtually in your opening hand, almost guaranteed. Because if 1/3 of your deck is land, and you pull 7 cards, that would basically be 2.3 lands, so mostly 2, sometimes 3. So we'll just say 2. Okay, so you take a turn, you drop a land, and you drew 2 more cards. Then the start of your 3rd turn, you draw another card. Well, 3 cards, 1/3 of your deck is land, you probably picked up the 3rd land, and if you already had 3, you probably picked up the 4th land. So you may or may not easily get to 4, but then if you don't, you have to just wait about 3 more turns to get to 4. Now getting to 5 is 3 turns from that, and getting to 6 is 3 turns from that. Yeah, that's turn 9. It is very difficult and unlikely to get 6 mana before turn 9, unless you're ramping or using, treasures or just whatever, something weird. So he is so unlikely to come out, and the whole time he's wasting the spot of a kill spell in your hand. So what I'm thinking is ditch it And we got to preserve what he does. And the same for Noxious. 6 is just so high for this deck, even with 23 lands. I mean, if you're going to play a spell that costs 6, you almost have to have ramp. I mean, that's just the rules. So I looked into better creatures, something that's a huge threat but costs less mana. So technically, the absolute best creature, the godsend creature for this deck that is ideal, unfortunately, is Vona, Butcher of Magan, and you can see why that's a problem. Vigilance, lifelink, and then just tap it and pay 7 life even if you have no mana and destroy target non-land permanent? What? Like, lifelink with 4, pay 7, and you have other life gain in the deck and destroy stuff repeatedly. What? Like, can you imagine that in a game? I mean, if this costs 4, it would be like the most powerful card in the set by far, but it costs 5, which is very appropriate for this power level. Still, the power level is over 9,000. So, is it worth it to add white for this card? Absolutely it is, but for simplicity, I'm going to leave it out, because as soon as I add in white, I'm going to gut all the removal spells and like replace them with slightly better white removal spells, and it'll just become a mess. So I want to keep this kind of resembling the initial deck and cheap, because, you know, white-black lands are not exactly cheap right now. So I came up with a couple other creatures, and instead of like, oh, let's get something that costs 5 or 6 or 7 and drop that out and then just win the game in a couple turns, what if you could have something that size, that power, that attack level, but have it like 3 to 5 turns earlier too? So I know it's kind of like this is supposed to be, you know, remove and then bring out a bomb, but it's just going to have to be a cheaper bomb. I mean, there's just no two ways about it because of, like I said, the boat anchor factor. So the one creature that probably everybody's screaming at their screen at this point, because it's the other absolute godsend to this deck. Not literally. Godsend is a really good card, though. Nope, wrong. Yahenni's Undying Partisan. Yahenni the Undying Partisan, not Yahenni's Undying Partisan. It's him. He's in the damn artwork. Anyway, it's a 2/2 for 3 with haste, so yeah, that's kind of, I mean, you get 2 extra damage, so you wouldn't have been able to swing if it was a 3/3 for 3 without haste, so it's kind of like having a 3/3 for the next 2 turns because you did 2 extra damage. So that should make you feel better about the fact that it's a 2/2 for 3, because remember, this deck is seriously lacking in any kind of damage directly to the opponent's, you know, life total. So if you're bringing out stuff where the attack power is lower than the cost, you got a problem. But get this, he doesn't stay at 2/2. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on Yahenni. Like, permanently. He keeps that counter. This ain't no end of the turn boost. And then, get this, he's a lightning rod that basically can't be destroyed, an indestructible lightning rod, and I think the opponent would know it. So, I mean, if you lost him for 3 mana, okay, I mean, whatever, but then if anything else is on the field, and that is a bit of an if, I mean, you got Gifted, you got Dreamstealer, you could just sack it. So they basically can't target him. So if you've got 3 counters on him because you did nothing but destroy their creatures, oh my gosh, like, they are not stopping this. He can't be stopped. So, I mean, he's not going to win the game by himself, but he actually kind of is if you keep destroying their creatures, which is the only circumstance under which you'll win anyway with this deck. So, why not? Now, he is legendary, so I wouldn't exactly drop in 4, but I think dropping in 3 would be appropriate. And I'm going to I'm going to remove 2 demons for now. Now, the other thing is, okay, we got Gifted, we've got Fretwork, we've got Dreamstealer, and Yahenni's, and Bone Picker, and Noxious. So, first of all, something needs to be done about that. And secondly, Bontus is a death sentence. So, Bontus is getting removed just because I upped the sheer creature count in this deck. And then let's see, what else? So, we're down to 66 cards. This is getting rough, especially since we have to add something. Because right now, as the deck sits, let's just pretend it's 16, it's playable. It's like, boy, I hope I don't get shorted on removal spells because my creatures are not even close to good enough to hold off what the average creature-heavy combat deck would do. So that's why Arduels is in there, or whatever his name is. But there's only 3 of it, and I mean, you gotta pay 2 life, so that's, and you gotta pay mana, so it's a little bit rough. And then when he flips, he's worthless. I should show you what it does. You can tap it for black and sacrifice a creature you gain life equal to its toughness. No, don't do that. Like, that's all I gotta say about that is no, don't do that. That's not a good idea. So anyway, we're gonna have to get rid of, unfortunately, One Gear Hulk. They're so good, but it's like 6 is so out of range, and it's potentially on the chopping block to remove 100% of them, unfortunately. Now, fortunately, that card's like $3, so there's an upside. Um, let's see. So, I mean, Dream Stealer, it's good because he's such a lightning rod, but 1 damage for 3. Okay, I'm going to cut 1. Oh, but I was going somewhere with that Arduels thing. We got to draw more cards. Because in a given game, you've got about a 37% chance of drawing this on average. That's not even a 50-50. So 1 in 3 games, you'll see this card. That is not good because you need to feed the removal engine. If you are outdrawing somebody 2-1 and you're playing control, you are going to win. If you're not, you're probably not going to win. So we've got 2 options. Well, here, I should actually type it in. Glint Sleeve Siphoner. It's 2 damage with Menace for 2. I mean, that's early game, get it out, Lightning Rod, cool. And when it enters the battlefield, you get 1 energy. And then when it attacks, you get 1 energy. So, the first time you attack, you're going to have 2 energy, I guess. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, draw a card and you lose 1 life. So there we are again with the lose 1 life. I mean, this deck, if I threw this in, it's like the deck is trying to kill you. I mean, you can only lose so much life, and you can only make it up so much with, the couple different little lifelinky things. And unfortunately, there's not like some big flying 4/4 lifelinker that I could throw in. That would be like perfect. That's why Vona is like mad in this deck, like so good. Just wish he didn't, or she, or whoever, cost 5. That's it's not gonna save you necessarily. So basically every 2 turns you could get a bonus card. But if this was out with Fretwork and you're also losing life on Arduels, you got a problem. I would just not play Arduels if this is in play. But it's so much life loss. So let me show you the other option. This one, people kept wanting to do something with this and nobody did, so it hit like 25 cents. But Midnight Oil, remember this card? It's a 4-cost enchantment, so it's gonna come out pretty late. And that late in the game, you'll be top decking maybe, so it kind of fits. But, I mean, the other option with Glint Sleeve is 2 mana. So, when it enters the battlefield, it has 7 hour counters on it, and then at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card, so just straight up 2 cards, but remove 2 hour counters from Midnight Oil. Your maximum hand size is equal to the number of counters on it. Oh boy. Now, the other thing is whenever you discard a card, you lose 1 life. Hey, there's that lose 1 life again. What is wrong with Black right now? I'm concerned for Black's safety. But basically, that'll never happen. I mean, if that happens, then something went wrong, because you're either destroying their stuff or you're throwing out creatures. I guess if they're playing a low creature deck and you're stuck with a whole bunch of removal spells, it might be a problem, but I mean, okay, you got 2 of them or 3 of them in your hand. Okay, you lose 3 life and discard them eventually. Because eventually your maximum hand size is going to be 0. But get this, you still, even under that circumstance, get to draw 2 cards per upkeep. So as long as you can cast 2 cards, you're good. And keep in mind, if you're double drawing, you're also dropping way more lands because you're drawing more lands. So Midnight Oil, everybody, it's a really good card for this deck. Apparently it's British all of a sudden. He doesn't look very British. He looks Armenian. Anyway, I think this would be the ideal card for it, but, I'm split, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm literally going to splint it. Split. I'm going to splint it. We're going to split it. There we go. Glint. All right. We got 2 Glints, 2 Midnights, and that will give the illusion that we have 3 card draws in here. And because Arduels is purely, pay and lose 2, I'm going to dump 1. So we've got 6 card draw engines here, which is not great. That brings it up to like a 60 to 70% chance that you'd pull it in a given game. But remember, if you're not pulling the card draw card, you're pulling cards. So do you really need more cards? I mean, yeah, usually, but whatever. So I think that's fair because there's just so little room in this deck. The other thing is, I mean, Fatal Push is good because if somebody even has like a 2-cost 2/2 or something, you're going to need to get it out of the way, just for like Glint Sleeve. But I gotta cut one. And honestly, it's like a $9 card anyway. So, it's just it's the least reliable kill spell. Let's just put it that way. If something was really, really, really a hazard, you just like block with your fretwork, block with your gifted, whatever, and then take it out with fatal once this has left the battlefield. I mean, it's not bad, but still, if it's above 4, you can't get rid of it. But there's a lot of redundancy here. Now, letting them pick, not a big deal. I like that one. Walk the plank. 2-cost sorcery. It's on curve. Let's do it. You can't let them run away with the board state that early. But fretwork, I mean, oh boy. I mean, we got to cut some creatures because this is a removal deck. I think that one fatal is the only thing I'm getting rid of. But keep in mind, we're still at 66 cards. So we can't get rid of the 2 that I just added. Torment, I mean, it'll win the game, but it's 4 and Midnight's 4, so I am actually going to remove one of those. But remember, Torment of Scarabs is a win condition, so pretend it's a creature, but a really good creature that basically can't be removed. Because at a certain point, they're not going to have any cards left, because remember, Dreamstealer, and they're not going to have any creatures left, because remember, the entire rest of the deck. So, oh boy, I mean, it's good, and I'd love to have more, but at a certain point, you also have to really worry about the curve, because don't do what I usually do and make everything good in the deck 3+, and then if you don't get to 3 mana, you automatically lose, because that is not fun. So Vraska's Contempt, I mean, exile target creature, Planeswalker, gain 2 life, okay, I mean, it costs 4, I don't love it. That's why we're keeping 23 lands, by the way, because a lot of the stuff is important and costs 4. But, boy, I mean, never costs 3, and then you get that Aftermath, so it's kind of like a bonus card. So I'd leave that in, because you get some value there, and it's kind of like a temp creature. Oh, boy, what do we get rid of? What do we get rid of? I mean, Bone Picker, it's a 3/2, and it's going to cost 1, so it's like really early on you can have a 3 damage flyer, so it's already a bit of a lightning rod, but do we have too many lightning rods? That's the question. So I think because we need to cut 5 cards, I'm going to just straight up get rid of 1 Bone Picker, 1 Fretwork, and oh boy, 1 Yahenni. I mean, they're legendary and they take a while to build up, whereas Fretwork is an automatic build up. And let's see, we need to get rid of 2 more cards. This is, like, hard. I mean, I like the deck as is, but it's going to have to be the Noxiouses. I'm not thrilled about it either, but I mean, these cards can win the game, these creatures, better than a 6 cost, just because of when they come out. I mean, they're just going to do more damage in the average game. So I think, okay, here we go. We're sitting at 60. So overall, now we've got, okay, removal. We got a ton of removal. I'm not going to count it, but it's a lot. It's probably 15 plus. And then we've got, sort of like I'm going to eat your removal spells. So if they use the removal spell to stop one of your creatures, they lost a card. But if you hit them with Dreamstealer, they lost a card. And then if you... if they take out Dreamstealer, then they lost a card. They had to spend a removal card to get rid of Dreamstealer. So that's just like, it's so perfect. Then you got this early game threat where it's like 4 or 5 turns from when it comes out, they're dead. So they have to deal with it immediately. So if you get this out on turn 2, it is hilarious, and I'm quoting that from actual experience. Gifted Aetherborn, I mean, I'd almost drop it, but it's like the only source of lifelink in the deck, just about. Well, lifelink, yeah, life gain, no, but it's close. So it has to be 4, it just has to be. And it will stall out the game if they manage to get out some just ferocious early game creature. Glint Sleeve, I mean, it's card draw, Midnight's card draw, and then Arduel's is card draw. I mean, that's just, you need 6 card draw sources minimum in this deck. That's real simple, so don't cut that. You got Yahenni, can win the game by itself. Bone Picker, it can kind of win the game by itself, and it's kind of, a lightning rod. And normally I'd say, it costs 4, cut it, but, I mean, let's be honest, it costs 1. So 3 damage for 1. This deck needs damage. It's also flying. You could just focus on removing flyers and win the game with it, which is why it still has 3. Vraska's very effective. I love it. I mean, if anything, I could cut 1 Vraska and maybe drop in like a Walk the Plank. I think that would help for speed, but for now, it gains 2 life. Let's leave it. I mean, I don't think this deck with all the draw volume is going to, and 23 lands, is going to have trouble getting to 4 most games. But in testing, I might change that ratio because you always want the cheapest removal possible. And also, this is instant speed. I like that. And then we got Torment, single-handedly win the game. I mean, are you seeing a little bit of a pattern here? Single-handedly win the game, win the game, win the game. I mean, and win the game. That's just it just is what it is. That's why you don't even need the top end bombs. And then, I mean, you just got more removal. That's it. So it's just straight up removal, card draw, and things that are horrible. Real simple, mono black, classic. I love it. So I might upload some gameplay footage with it, but this is my revised version of it. And like I said, if you were to drop in white, you'll get a little bit better removal. A lot of like combat tricks, like Celestial Flare stuff. You even got an option for like name jamming with Gideons. That could be in the sideboard. And then you'd have Vona, which would be just mental. I mean, Vona would be so good in this deck, and all kinds of other tricks that white comes with. And then you might be able to drop in a second high-powered lifelinker in the place of, you know, something. I don't know. I'm not sure what. I mean, maybe Bone Picker could be pulled, and that aerial dwarf lifelink vigilance thing could be put in. I mean, it wouldn't do as much damage. It wouldn't end the game as quick, and it costs 3, but the recurring lifelink would go a long way in this deck. So that might be something to consider, but for now, consider the deck fixed. I'll see you guys next video.